Right now we're talking about some of the worst crimes ever committed on Halloween.
Okay, lay it on me.
You're interested?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm ready.
The murders of Ronald Seisman and Elizabeth Flaxman. In the early hours of Halloween 1981, a Manhattan couple were murdered in their Chelsea apartment. The couple were severely beaten before being shot in the head, execution style, with the apartment completely ransacked.
Okay.
New York police initially believed drug money to be the motive, but a prison informant claimed that one of his fellow inmates had predicted the crime weeks before it actually happened.
Nice.
That inmate turned out to be the son of Sam killer, David Berkowitz. Berkowitz had long been rumored to be involved with a satanic cult that helped him with some of the murders. According to the informant, Berkowitz had told him that his cult was planning to enter a residence near Greenwich Village, Chelsea would qualify for that, on Halloween to carry out a ritual murder. When questioned, Berkowitz claimed that the Seisman footage had one of the Son of Sam's shootings and was planning to hand it over to the authorities in exchange for dropping some drug charges. While no evidence was found to support Berkowitz's claims, he was basically right about the description of Seisman's apartments, and the killings are still unresolved.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like a ritual murder, though. It sounds like a B&E.
Well, they execution-style killed him.
Well, yeah, but then they ransacked the place.
What?
I don't know. I guess...
Why you got to come down on other people's religions? Maybe this is the way they were to kill people, you know? So judgmental.
Okay.
All right.
I guess everyone has their own rituals.
That's true. All right. So a preacher strangles a woman. Halloween night 2012, John D. White entered Rebekah Gay's mobile home and murdered her. White struck her in the head with a mallet several times before tightening a large zip tie around her neck. He had planned on having sex with the corpse after watching several necrophilia videos online, but he was unable to do so because of he was so drunk.
Were they like how-to videos, or?
I didn't look it up.
Were they like necrophilia advocacy videos, and this guy was like, that does sound like a good lifestyle.
I don't know, you're too interested in the specifics.
Okay, keep going.
Here's where it gets really weird. Gay's 3-year-old son was home at the time of the murder, and White stayed with the boy afterwards. He dressed the kid in his Halloween costume and delivered him to his father. White then confessed to the police about the murder. He was sentenced to 56 years and 3 months in prison, and he committed suicide in prison just months after being convicted.
Okay.
So he dressed the little boy up and sent him off for Halloween. That is absolutely disturbing.
Well, he was in the spirit of the holiday, I guess.
Yeah, well, I don't know. All right, so the Toolbox Killers. Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris were the torture team known as the Toolbox Killers.
Okay.
They received the name because they used basic household tools to inflict unimaginable torments on their victims, young teenage girls in the Los Angeles area. The men would give rides to hitchhiking girls and then take them to remote locations where they would, sexually torture, torment, and murder them. Then Bittaker and Norris would dump their bodies in the mountains. The men kept photographs and audio tapes of the girls while they were doing their business. The men's fifth and final victim died on Halloween night, 1979. 16-year-old Shirley Ledford was hitchhiking home from a party when they picked her up. She was beaten with a sledgehammer, raped and tortured with a pair of pliers, and then dumped on a neighbor's lawn, where a jogger found her the next morning. Norris bragged about the murder to an ex-convict friend who gave the information to authorities. The men were arrested, and the photographic and audio evidence was recovered. Norris confessed to the abductions, but he blamed Bittaker for the murders. Norris cut a plea deal. He testified against his partner in crime in exchange for life in prison. As of today, however, Lawrence Bittaker remains incarcerated on death row at San Quentin.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why can't anyone murder frat boys? You know, why's it got to be teenage girls?
Well, unfortunately, I think it's because it's all
I know why.
sexually charged.
But, like...
it's like...
Come on. It's just upsetting.
Do you want people to kill frat boys?
Kinda, yeah. Balance the scales.
What if they're just the one with the heart of gold that was going to die from being hazed anyway? Why would you wish such a horrible death upon them?
Well, I mean, statistically, it evens out, though. I just want more gender parity in serial killer victims.
I see.
That's all I want.
You feel that this is unfair.
I feel that it's unfair, and
And the only way to make it fair is to have it happen to the other side as well.
Probably there are other ways, but I don't know. I think I would feel a little better about the world if, some frat boys went missing. That's all I'm saying.
All right. You're... Okay. I'll get to work on it.
So, you're not going to touch that? Okay, let me hear the next one.
The Liske family murders. Columbus, Ohio on Halloween 2010. 16-year-old Devin Griffin returned home from Sunday church services to find his brother Derek, mother Susan, and Susan's new husband, William, murdered. At first, he thought it was a Halloween joke.
What?
Devin was so traumatized he could only say that the scene was like something out of a haunted house. The killer was found to be William's son from his previous marriage, who had a history of schizophrenia and violence. Liske was later picked up at a halfway house and pleaded guilty to all 3 murders and committed suicide in prison in 2015.
It's unusual. Schizophrenics aren't normally violent.
No.
I guess in this case.
And the few that I've known to be violent, it was much more self-inflicted.
Sure. Well, I guess murder is kind of unusual, just in any case.
Yeah, well...
What I want to know is how do killings on Halloween compare? Is there a Halloween spike, compared to the other 364 days of the year, or is it just a normal day? Is there less killing on Halloween?
I don't know, but I would guess that there's more.
Mm-hmm.
And I would guess that there's more solely based around alcohol consumption and not based around any sort of supernatural anything. Although the supernatural aspect is definitely what makes me interested in some of these, because when people snap, it always makes me think of that movie Fallen. Have you ever seen the movie Fallen? I know you haven't.
Yeah, no.
Because you haven't seen anything. Jared has, I bet.
Jared's shaking his head.
Is he shaking his head now?
I have not even heard of that movie.
Okay. Fallen is Denzel Washington.
You're alone, Johnson.
Well, it's following this evil spirit that basically gets in a person's body and controls them. And so a perfectly good person all of a sudden does something terrible. And then he touches somebody and the spirit leaves to another body. And that person's left there with the aftermath and ends up going to prison. And it's all about Denzel Washington trying to figure out who Azazel, a spirit.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. It's very good. And it's oddly good for being a Denzel Washington movie from the 90s. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people are going to be all, but what? Denzel is a national treasure. He is a national treasure when it comes to stuff like Glory. He is. But his action movies from the 90s are terrible. All action movies from the 90s are terrible.
Here on Radio Wasteland, we don't shy away from controversy.
Yeah.
We are willing to tell it like it is when it comes to
Can you believe
Denzel
what he
Washington,
said about Denzel? Yeah.
1990s action movies.
All right, you're listening to Radio Wasteland. When we come back, we're going to talk about some horror films that were based on real-life events.
Okay.
So come on back. You're listening to Radio Wasteland.